Since 2015, SmashCPU has cultivated a committed community based on watching CPU versus CPU matches within video games, primarily the Super Smash Bros. Series. What started out primarily as a funny novelty live stream has ultimately turned into a tight-knit group that can't get enough of this stuff even 10 years later. How did this happen? How does predetermined AI programming result in seemingly endless entertainment for a group that's observed and analyzed this stuff to death? As many in the SmashCPU community will tell you, this is an incomplete descriptor of what watching these matches represents to them. Beneath the conceptual layers of ridiculousness in such a concept lies a format conducive to communal expressions of creativity and achievement, a harmonious blend that extracts meaning from the meaningless in the most irony-poisoned zoomer way possible. The typical form of a SmashCPU event is a tournament in which each CPU entered into the tournament by its organizer is represented by one equivalent individual. Each person looking to join this tournament will select their chosen character, their player avatar, if you will, and are then left helpless to watch and observe their performance in the tournament. The tournament organizer will go on to broadcast the event, highlighting the performances of each individual that entered it in a way to emphasize the excitement of their performances as a part of the CPU versus CPU environment. This is obviously ridiculous, and everyone knows it, but that's part of the point. The goofy nature of assigning player credit to CPU performances lends a lighthearted and low-stakes atmosphere to SmashCPU events. From an entrant's perspective, engaging in this form of pseudo-competition carries with it many of the benefits of interpersonal competition, but without the typical risks one would normally assume in engaging with that. Any given entrant has the opportunity to win an event in the same way as all other entrants, through pure luck. A win is a thrill to get excited about, and a loss is ultimately beyond any level of control or responsibility. Anyone can win or lose without actually viewing or otherwise engaging with the event beyond signing up for it. In this sense, SmashCPU serves as an accidental social experiment that strips back to the foundation of interpersonal competition. If one were to create a competition that fully eliminates the factor of skill and everyone knew it, what would happen? Since entering SmashCPU events is about as riskless as it gets, there are a lot of ways to freely engage with it. One's player avatar they select might be a representative of who that entrant thinks is most like them, or their ideal. It might be the coolest character available, it might be the most interesting AI behavior available, it might be an X-Factor pick for the sake of adding intrigue, and of course, it might be the character assumed to give them the best opportunity to win the pseudo-competition with their free lottery ticket. There's a lot of ways to draw meaning out of one's pick, and the event organizer is responsible for reflecting that collective meaning into something worth engaging with. Typically, this involves manufacturing some sort of drama and prestige to provide a sort of theatrical appeal to the viewers. After all, viewers may be entrants by definition, but the absence of meritocracy in this pseudo-competition leaves a void of participation from the viewers that must be filled by context from the organizer or otherwise. In SmashCPU, a person may sign up for an event disguised as a competition, but they are actually electing to become a character in a production, and that character's performance, of course, is out of their control. This creates an extra layer to one's connection with their player avatar, and how one engages with this would normally be indicative of how they wish to shape their on-screen character. A classic example of this is an entrant that, over time, will gravitate towards the character that they believe will give them the best chance of winning, even if they didn't start with that mindset. Though there's no real material benefit to winning a CPU event, many entrants will still find interest in positively influencing the production's character that they're most invested in, which is their own. Wins are still celebrated, of course, and only become more collectively celebrated when there is a mutual understanding amongst community members that winning is desirable. But anyone can still be a compelling character without being a winner. After all, losing in CPUs is not an extension of an entrant's lack of merit, but their lack of luck. Everyone knows that, and as such, event results don't impact social status within the greater community. There is no rational reason to inflate or bruise one's ego, to evaluate oneself as a product of their acquired skills, following a result from their detached avatar. The only way to truly lose in SmashCPU is to not have fun with it. This particular context necessary for SmashCPU to work is a wonderful, weird thing that can only be brought to life through interactions with others. From an entrant perspective, this is simple enough. Someone else needs to host an event for that person to join it. But entrant organizers also require people. In the most literal sense, other humans aren't necessarily required to be able to run a CPU versus CPU tournament, but all the magic here comes from the commentary and reactions surrounding the matches. Because of this, everything in SmashCPU is for the community, by the community. Everyone has a mutual interest in seeing more events. This combination of a low barrier to entry, lighthearted nature, and emphasis on community facilitates a place to explore creative endeavors without judgment. Since there is little in the way of perceived purity of what SmashCPU is, organizers are able to experiment with plenty of elements when creating something new. This can range from changing the rules to encourage greater engagement, to dabbling in digital art, music production, improv acting, video editing, graphic design, or really anything to spice up the context around the new event. Traditional measurements of artistic competence are not an expectation of this auxiliary context, or even necessarily a goal, but rather a little tree on top of SmashCPU's requisite community involvement. Each event features a largely recurring cast, and each character's story is an ongoing one, so drawing connections to community history is a natural conclusion. However, the inherently stagnant nature of AI programming necessitates constant motion between styles of iteration, and with that comes a culture of pursuing and embracing the new and fresh over pure nostalgia loops. Or, to think about it another way, SmashCPU being what it is encourages people to get together and become friendly with each other. Friends like to reminisce in the old times and stowed memories, but they also want to experience new things in new ways. This applies to community members as well, many of whom come and go and sometimes return as they reach different stages of their lives. Old heads are welcomed back since those memories are cherished and preserved. New blood is welcomed in since it's a new dynamic for the group to engage with. Some people will show greater levels of engagement than others, but in the case of those content with just killing some time by signing up for events and checking to see if they're a winner, and those preferring to be involved on a deeper level, both are fundamentally accepted through the framework and dynamics of the community. SmashCPU represents something different to everyone, but it will always offer the opportunity to create meaning out of the meaningless.